Sorry, I'm trying to keep this thing wedged in. Every time it slightly pops out, my camera freezes and it glitches everything, and I have to start over. Hello, my fellow fanfiction review readers. I need to start over. Hello, my fellow fanfiction readers. It's I, Dark Symphony 777, with another fanfiction review. As always, I'll leave a link to the story in the description. Please like, subscribe to the channel. Click on that bell for any future notifications, whether it be my fanfiction reviews, readings, my crazy world, or any of my let's plays. And leave a comment in the comment section below for your thoughts on my review, the story, or any other future reviews or readings you want me to do. Dang, it's hot in here. So we're finally at the end of Hercules and the Modern Girl. We're now at season 3. We're at the end. And I was completely blown out of my water. I didn't think season 3 was going to be as good as season 1 or 2, mainly because season 1 had really, really wonky, slightly slightly weird I don't know how to describe it. It was really weird first person style writing that I felt it could have worked if it was done better than what the author did. And season 2 was more boring than anything except for the last chapter. Season 3 finally fixed a lot of the problems I had with the story. Thank God. First off, there's only 5 in terms of the plot. There's only about 5 episodes. The episodes are Tapestry of Fate. That's the episode with the Fates and the Changing Time. Spring Canathris, where Hercules and everyone kind of becomes a baby, and Cassandra kind of saves them. Pool Party, where Hades kind of brings all the gods into the pool of forgetfulness, and Hades kind of becomes a god. A Tolian Amphora. That's the episode that introduced Meg into the official Hercules cartoon, and Jilt Trip with the crazy princess. Yeah, that's it. And let's get started. In terms of plot, I can't really talk too much about the plot, mainly because I already discussed it in seasons 1 and 2. Just go watch that. In terms of this plot, we're finally getting some themes, but those are going to be more talked about in character development. In terms of plot, this is basically continuing on from the last event of season 2, with Cassandra finally knowing that Natalie is from the future, and and now she's actually starting to have feelings for Hades, and it kind of carries that theme of the starting themes of what I'm expecting season 4 and eventually 5. Yeah, there's 5 seasons now, but season 4 is still not done yet. On what the rest of the story is going to be about, with Natalie kind of getting split in the middle between whether or not she goes with Hercules or goes with Hades. So now we're getting that split that the author promised at the beginning. And it works really well. Honestly, one slightly small problem I had with season 1 or 2 is it went for quantity over quality. It had a whole bunch of episodes, but there was barely anything to really differentiate. There was no uniqueness. Yeah, I get it. You were kind of building the world and copying the episodes, but you didn't need to do that all the time. But with season 3, with only 5 episodes, it allowed all the episodes to breathe more. Allowing all the development to come more clearly through, better character developments, better subplots, better plot threads to connect to everything. We kind of get the themes of what I expect from an actual drama. Themes of forgiveness, with the idea of Natalie's lies starting to kind of crush down on top of her and threatening to spill everything. With Hercules slowly trying to find out that who her Natalie works for and everything, and her lies kind of falling apart one by one over the course of the story, and her breaking down and her basic. But I can't really talk about the plot, mainly because, again, I mentioned it in the last 2 stories, kind of ad nauseum. It's kind of doing a sequel. It's kind of hard talk about some of the stuff when you already talked about stuff in the previous videos, especially since it's all one gigantic story. In terms of character development, this is where the story needed to shine, because that's all season 1 and 2 had going for it. It had amazing character development and amazing use of the characters, how, where to go from point A to point B. But it was getting stagnant by the end of season 2, when Natalie kind of slowly getting Sue's trait. I know what a Mary Sue is. I'm not saying she became a Mary Sue, but near the end, it looked like she was slowly getting there. She wasn't there. She was far from it, but it looked like she was slowly starting to get those qualities. This season 3 humanized her, with all the lies slowly falling around her, with her regrets over, wanting to stay in ancient Greece, with her now split feelings of, getting affections for Hades, and with her feelings kind of overcoming the fact that she doesn't want to, now overcoming the fact that she doesn't know whether or not to stay in ancient Greece or go home back to modern Greece. So we got a very lovely chasm and two paths to go, whether she stays or whether she goes. Her Cassandra, I kind of expected Cassandra to kind of get more focus in season 3, mainly because she was out of focus for pretty much all of season 2, and season 2 focused more on Icarus than Cassandra. But I'm happy the fact that unlike Icarus, which is kind of a static character, you can't do too much to him, really, mainly because he's really crazy, and you could do stuff with him, but it would take it would be more confusing. You're like, what the hell? But Cassandra, she has a nice jumping off point with her development in terms of dealing with Natalie, kind of becoming this Jiminy Cricket-like figure and kind of encouraging her. So you got to do these things, this is what friends do, and kind of becoming an anchor point to keep Natalie from kind of going over the deep end and kind of going into despair and hatred and everything, and becoming Hades. Because that's another thing. The fact that she's, over the course, she realizes she's slowly becoming more and more like Hades. The M's, they kind of become like a little brothers to Natalie, which are nice. They get a lot of screen time. Another benefit of the fact the author kind of shortened season 3. Hercules, we kind of got, Hercules kind of stayed the same. I think Hercules kind of went stagnant. I think this season kind of needed to focus more on Natalie, so I'm okay with Hercules going static. In terms of his character, he did get some character development, but it was more slow build, and he kind of got the requisite development at pretty much in the last 2 stories, the one with Meg and the guilt trip episode. But yeah, up until then, he was kind of out of focus, because the story focused more on Natalie and Cassandra and Hades. Hades, he is still a big dude, but he's actually softening up over the course of the story. He's getting more used to Natalie, and actually at the end, when she leaves to go live with Cassandra and her family to set up the events of season 4, he kind of realizes he's lusting after her, and he wants her back. He wants her back to work for him. So in terms of character development, the development is phenomenal. We got Natalie humanized, something that desperately needed. Cassandra got more focus and kind of became a central character. I wouldn't be surprised as when the author does get to the movie that she finds a way to put Cassandra in. I would actually like to see that with the Hercules movie, but with Icarus and Cassandra in it, because that would actually be pretty cool. Because the cartoon came after the movie, so of course, Cassandra and Icarus weren't in there. Hades got a lot of development that he needed, mainly because he was developing, but he didn't really have a clear character arc. It looked like somewhere around season 2 the author kind of lost track of where to go with Hades specifically. It looked like she had an inkling, but didn't know how to get there. But now season 3 happened, and the author's writing improved. Yet now we got the path with Hades, with him slowly getting feelings for Natalie and wanting to be with her. And honestly, this is a drama story, drama adventure, and this is what dramas need. It needs phenomenal storytelling and phenomenal characters. Because I think when it comes to dramas, I think the one thing they succeed at that no other story does, that no other genre really do, is pure character building. Because when you think of like some of the best movies, some of the best books, some of the best plays, some of the best, stuff like that, when it comes to like how putting characters first rather than action or suspense or stuff like that, like other little trinkets, when you focus on pure characters, what genre does characters best? And that is drama. That has always been drama. Sure, you'll get something like Stephen King or Dean Koontz who focus more on atmosphere and can do phenomenal story building and character development in different ways. Like Dean Koontz again with the use of atmosphere, or Stephen King with the use of surrealist imagery and surrealist ideas. You kind of mixing and matching these sort of kooky ideas that he somehow makes work. And that when I was reading season 1 and 2 of Hercules and the Modern Girl, that's really all the story had going for it, is the fact that this was a pretty creative idea, and the characters were pretty good. It's like, okay, you can keep the story kind of stagnant, I don't really care, but the fact that you were still delivering on the characters consistently, it at least had me hope that I hope the author sooner or later kind of gets everything lined up right, so we get a completely phenomenal story, and we got that with season 3. Grammar. Oh boy. I actually wanted to bring up a specific grammar error in mind, mainly because of the simple fact that this one specific grammar error is hilarious. If you actually seen my Five Nights at Freddy's Memories Lie Beneath, Memories Left Forgotten, I believe that's the name of the story. That grammar, there was a very kind of hilarious, so hilarious grammar errors, I actually had to talk about it. That grammar error was my arch, my back, and it reminded me of the mid-1990s WWE, at the time WWF, where Owen Hart and Bret Hart were feuding, and Owen Hart came out and famously, or hilariously said, and that's why I'm gonna kick your leg out from underneath your leg. And that reminded me so much, and this is reminding me of 2. So it's chapters 109, it's Guilt Trip Part 4. It's a scene where Hercules is consoling this guy named Geryon, who's a three-bodied guy with like super strong. And Hercules finds out that he dated Geryon, was sad because he dated the princess of the area for 4 days, and then she broke up because she's an airhead, and now going after Hercules. And I kid you not, this was just sheer. What the hell was I? What was I even? Crud! It went up by accident. I wanted to talk about it. Wait, I passed it. Oh, here we go. This is the grammar error. So we're at the scene, and he's like, and then he starts imagining, which I remember was a running gag in that cartoon. The specific error is this. I want you to see if you can find the error. Geryon's mind wandered back in time, back to all the good times Geryon had with Princess Laviana. They had a picnic on a field, rolled down a hill together, boiled a lobster that pinched Geryon's nose, making Lavia laugh at Hercules with amusement. What the? Where did Hercules come from? I couldn't help but laugh, and I actually took a quick second to read that sentence all over again. It's like, wow, that is bad. That is laughably bad error. I couldn't help but laugh at it. And I'm like pausing, I'm thinking, what? It continues on. Oh, there's a bunch of grammar errors, just like in the season 2 and 1. It's a fan fiction. I'm not a grammar Nazi, so I really don't give a fuck. But I had to bring attention to this specific grammar error because of how hilarious it was. It just, wow, just wow. Pacing and imagery. Back to what I think the story fixed right is the fact that it let the stories time to breathe. With lesser amount of stories, this gives you gives the author more time to work on the subthreads, the subplots, the Natalie's development as a character instead of focusing more on the cartoony world of the Hercules cartoon, and focus on actually improving the story and seeing how to get the characters where they need to go. And in terms of pacing, this story, season 3, basically trumped season 1 and 2 in terms of pacing. I think it was much more slower burn, but it speeded up in the certain parts that it needed to. It still kept the overall cartooniness of the cartoon, so it still kept the whole wonky pacing and everything. That's what it needed to be. But when it focused on Natalie, it focused on slowing it down, having to develop our character, and that worked. Like, it still had, like in the pool party episode where, it still had, Hades hamming it up. It still had the really weird, still incredibly fast pacing because it was a cartoon. You only had 22 minutes to work for. You can only really do so much to stretch a 22-minute episode. And I think, honestly, Aladdin did that better than Hercules, to be honest. But there was only so much to do, and I think the author did the best she could, but what she had. So I can't fault her, and I'm not going to fault her for that. In terms of imagery, like the writing style is kind of weird. I only just noticed this at the end of season 3, but even in season 2 and season 1, the author had this really redundant and repetitive writing style. Like in season 3, when Natalie develops this like sort of costume named Zoe, this disguise that she calls herself Zoe. But every time when Hercules meets Natalie, it seems to like remind the reader like a simple percent. It's still not that who, like, it's Zoe who is actually Natalie in disguise. Like, we don't need that. It still fits the cartoony nature of the world because they kind of did that in the cartoon as well. So I can't fault the author for that. The writing style reminds me of Glitz and Glory. I did a review on that. And I did not like the writing style. I'm more tolerable of the writing style here, simply because the author does the writing style better, and it's only really at certain points, instead of like just constant throughout the entire story, like Glitz and Glory did. And second, it still kind of fits the world that the author has established over these kind of redundant things, because it's still based off a cartoon, unlike of Glitz and Glory, which was a completely original story. This was still following a preordained plot. So I can make concessions for the writing style here, but there's only so much I can take because you're getting to the end of the cartoon, and then season 5 is going to be the movie. Would I recommend this? I'm finally going to be able to see would I recommend this, and that is yes. I can excuse season 2 for being droll and trite, mainly because it does what it needs to do in terms of a storytelling basis. It's to set up all of season 2 is to set up the events of season 3. I can appreciate that. Season 1, with all its funky writing style, I can still appreciate the fact that at the beginning it was a pretty creative idea, and the characters were on point and were done incredibly well. I can excuse that. Season 3 was basically, you combined the character development with the storytelling aspects and kind of cranked them up to 10. You get season 3. So will season 4 kind of top this, and eventually season 5, because season 5 is going to be the movie? I don't know. That's mainly my big question with the story. Is the author going to finish this story? or is she gonna be like a lot of other fan fiction authors and kind of abandon it, and it's kind of not, it becomes a forgotten relic of the time, another unfinished story that had a lot of promise that really should have been finished but didn't. That's the question I have. Is the author gonna finish this? I don't know, because story, I believe season 1 was started all the way back in 2013. Back in 2013. And now it's 2015. Now it's five years later, and the stories, and now the author is like redoing season 4. I don't know how long season 4 is going to take, but I know that it actually might finish, because the last update was actually a week ago. So who knows? The author might actually finish season 4 and then work on season 5, which is the movie. Favorite part, unlike season 1 and season 2, which was very obviously what I went into the reviews knowing what my favorite part was going to be. This one was a little more tough because the uptake in quality was so high that there were a lot of parts that stood up. There was Natalie and Hades' conversation in the elevator. There was Natalie actually beating up Hercules, because it was actually played. It was still played for laughs, but it was still it helped out with Hercules and Natalie's development. Natalie's goodbye, Natalie talking to Medusa, that whole one chapter. Actually seeing the image of Natalie actually knocking out Megara with a headbutt, that was actually a pretty cool image and a pretty cool scene, simply because I didn't really like Megan in Elatoya and Amphora. I did not like her in that episode. I think oh my god, she was a bitch, and it's like, oh my god, I did not like her character in that episode. But I have to do the entirety of chapter 90 Scream, which is basically just one large prank by Hades and one giant brick joke to Natalie. Basically, in that chapter, Hades, he leaves and brings the imps with him, and now Natalie's all alone. She goofs off, and then Hades decides to channel his inner ghost face from Scream and proceed to spook out Natalie. And I thought that was really well done. Especially with the fact Hades actually comes out of the closet dressed as Ghostface and chases her. It's like, blah, 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 blah. And then the reveal that, I caught the whole thing on camera. It's like, you what? Yeah, there's one right there. You bitch. Bye. I thought that whole chapter was fine. It's a self-contained chapter, so you can easily just go on that story, just skip to chapter 90 and just read that, because that was hilariously funny. I'm not a fan of horror movies, but I can appreciate when a horror story, mainly because one, my brain works really weirdly, and two, because of the fact it's still kind of played as laughs. When Natalie's like, okay, it's pretty obvious that it's kind of a prank, and then she realizes, oh, it's not a prank, and then it's like, it is a prank. No. So it's kind of weird like that. And I really love the story. I really love season 3. I can't wait to see what Starswim does in season 4. And it's such a shame that I can't talk about anything, because I already talked about it in the previous 2 parts. So that is my review on season 3 of Hercules and the Modern Girl. This has been Dark Symphony 777, and cut.